Good morning and welcome to the Morning Scoop for Saturday, November 13th. This is your daily Buckeye fix. I'm Tom Orr. The Purdue game is today, the game against Michigan in 14 days. Brian Day has compared the stretch run of the college football season to the NCAA basketball tournament, and that analogy is actually exactly correct if you treat today as the first round of the Big Dance. Just like at the start of March Madness, Ohio State is exactly 6 wins away from a national championship. 3 regular season games, a Big Ten championship game, and the college football playoff semifinal and the title game. But as Chris Holtman's Ohio State men's basketball team learned earlier this year, you can't take any of those 6 for granted. From what Day said on Thursday in his final media availability of the week, it sounds like the Buckeyes are not taking the Boilermakers lightly. This is his lightning round interviews, which always kind of touch on a bunch of different topics in a very, very short period of time. So we're going to start with a question on Thayer Munford, what he has meant to the program over his career and this year in particular. And this audio is courtesy of the Ohio State University Athletic Department.
Probably hard to do in this short of a time. He's a Block O recipient, Bill Willis Award winner, captain, and he really helped us this offseason, this preseason, with great leadership. When we had a young team that didn't have a lot of experience, he was a guy that decided to come back. Made the move to guard, which has been really good for him, just showing his versatility, and certainly the feedback we've got is that it's really improved his value because he can do multiple things. His approach has been unbelievable. He's been durable, somebody we can count on, and certainly as a person, Ohio State is going to miss him when he leaves.
Every game week has a certain rhythm during the season. First, the team reviews the previous game, then on Tuesday in practice starts working on what's next. But college football coaches are tinkerers and really never truly satisfied with what they have. So when do they have to have their game plan for each week really well and truly locked in?
I would say probably there is no drop dead. I would say in the Rutgers game, we called the play that we hadn't practiced all week, and it worked. It was just the right thing at the right time, and sometimes you add plays in late that you have banked reps at, or you feel comfortable calling. Then there's other things that need a lot of work during the week. And so there's no real drop dead. However, typically what we want to do is we put our first and second down game plan in on Tuesday, third down red zone on Wednesday, and then we polish everything up on Thursday, walk through on Friday. And, we won't really add much, after probably Wednesday. Maybe we'll add a play on Thursday, but that's rare. We usually want to make sure that we get a bunch of reps and get efficient at it.
On his weekly radio show, Day mentioned that included in the clips he showed the team from the Nebraska game were a couple plays where the coaching staff probably had the wrong play called. So it's important for them to hold themselves accountable like that in front of the rest of the team.
Oh, I think it's very important. And, there's always, no matter what game it is, probably, 3 to 5 calls that you wish you had back. If you're into the 10 to 15, it's usually a bad day. And so it's everybody across the board. And that's the one thing that, I think that our offense feels is that we're all in this thing together, whether it's the wide receivers, the quarterback, the running back, the tight ends, the offensive line, or the coaches, and that we have to solve it at the end of the day. And we're in this thing together. And I think that's important to see everybody in there together, working together, knowing that if I'm doing my part, then I'm accountable to the guy next to me. But all it takes is one guy to be off, and that includes the coaching. So we're all in this thing together. And I think that was the point of the meeting.
Purdue's defensive end, George Karlafits, is going to present a major challenge for the offensive line today and possibly be a good dry run before they have to block Aiden Hutchinson from Michigan in a couple of weeks. Karlaftis is a good enough player that they had Jack Sawyer helping play the role of him in practice this week. So what did it mean that they viewed a true freshman as the best chance to be entrusted with that kind of a role? And then maybe more importantly, how did the offensive line handle that?
I think that they realize this is a big challenge. Both JT and Jack are some of the younger guys that when we go ones versus twos versus ones at the end of practice, allow us an opportunity to kind of fit the same body makeup that Karlaftis has. And so, the combination of speed and power and quickness is pretty comparable. But I would say that Karlaftis is probably the biggest challenge that these guys have had all year, and probably one of the better defensive ends in the country. So that they understand that going into the game, and they're going to have to be playing their best.
Day said something fairly remarkable on his radio show, that the Buckeyes were planning to take the ball in the first half at Nebraska because it would mean an extra possession with Steele Chambers on defense. Now, remember, Steele Chambers had to sit out the first half at Nebraska due to a targeting call, and shaping your game plan around potentially getting just one extra drive out of him is really amazing when you think about it. So is that also maybe an indication that staff views Chambers as the new starter at the will position?
I leave that up to Coach Washington, but he's playing at a starter level for sure. And, I'll leave it at that. And I think, he's playing as good as anybody else on our defense right now. Now he's got to continue that. And, we're still going to play depth and a bunch of other guys are going to play. But I just think when you look at the production, it's been significant.
Day has either hinted at or directly said at times this fall that some guys were maybe not taking practice quite as seriously as they probably should have been at the beginning of the year. Recently, he's talked about being happy with how seriously the team is taking things now. He was asked, are there one or two guys where you've seen real specific progress from in that area?
I don't know if it's just one or two people, honestly. I wish I could say that. I think it's just across the board. Guys understand how important it is. And it's something I noticed this week is there was just a little bit of an urgency to get it right. Because, when you start to get a bunch of games under your belt, you realize, I got 2 or 3 times to get this right in practice, the timing. And when you play against good defenses and good offenses, you have to be just right. And if you're a little bit off, the margin for error is tiny. And so that's what preparation is all about. I think our guys are starting to learn that a little bit more, and we can keep growing in that area. But the better we are in that area, I think the better we'll perform on Saturday.
Purdue has already beaten 2 teams this season ranked in the top 5, but this weekend still represents a game sandwiched between a road trip and then a pair of games against top 10 teams to close the regular season. So does this qualify as a trap game to Ryan Day? Here are his thoughts on that and how he feels his team has prepared this week.
Well, yeah, I think we're much more rested than we were last week going into that game. Trap game, I think what it is just bringing it every week and the ability to consistently bring it week in and week out after, having emotional games, big wins, different things that happen. And playing against conference opponents, playing against 9 conference opponents, playing against a non-conference with Oregon, that's 10 games where you can't lay an egg. You can't have a bad day. And so that's part of this process. And I think maybe coming off of last year, some guys who are coming into the program who didn't play much last year, now they're having to play a full season and not being able to take a week off. In the NFL, when you play 16, 17 weeks, you can have 3 or 4 bad weeks. You can't in college football. And when you're playing against this conference right now that's very, very strong, that's the challenge. Can you bring it week in and week out? And so this is another good team. Again, whether it was Purdue or Nebraska last week or Penn State the week before, we've got to bring it, and it can't be about our opponents. So that has been brought up to them. We talked about that during the bye week. We knew what this run was going to be like, and here we are. And we have to find ways to win. And I do think we're more rested this week, and we've had a good focus. But now again, we got to bring it.
Ohio State has played a lot of depth at running back this season. True freshman Travion Henderson seems like he's pretty much ensconced as the starter now, but Mayan Williams and Master Teague are getting carries as well when they're healthy. But what about the other true freshman, Evan Pryor? Is he potentially in line to be the second guy off the bench behind Henderson at some point soon?
I don't know if about the second guy right now, but he certainly is in the mix to get in the game. And he's growing every day. He's getting better. He's practicing better. And he's got a very, very bright future here. We think he can be a really good player. Been very impressed with things we've seen. So he's got to be ready to play.
Now, the next exchange you're about to hear is about wide receiver Garrett Wilson, who missed last week's game. It is a fairly short exchange, but I'm just going to play the entire back and forth with you so that you can read into it whatever you want to. You can hear the whole thing, full context, and you can read into it whatever you want to. The person who's going to be asking the question, whose voice you'll hear first, is Joey Kaufman of the Columbus Dispatch. Day's response is brief.
Ryan, how has Garrett looked in practice this week after coming off being out last week?
Was that a good week of practice?
Does he look like he's in a rust or?
He's had a good week of practice, and we'll see how he does today.
And finally, another short health update, not quite as short this time. This one on the status of defensive tackles Haskell Garrett and Tyleik Williams.
Yeah, we're expecting to have them, and they've both had different things along the way the last couple of weeks that have kind of held them back a little bit, but but we're expecting them to play this week.
Tony Gerderman, Kevin Noon, and I will have our usual pregame and postgame coverage for today's Buckeye game against Purdue. You can find those at youtube.com/Buckeye Scoop. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube, and you will get notified when we go live on the pregame show and the postgame show. Those shows are always more fun with more people there because we do a lot of answering questions, and the more of you guys are there, the more questions we get, and the more great questions we can get a chance to answer. So that makes our jobs easier. It makes our jobs a little more fun too. And those are always really, really fun shows to be a part of. So I hope you guys will join us. So again, youtube.com/Buckeye Scoop a little later on today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. Enjoy the game, and we'll talk to you a little bit later on.